Yakleash.com, outfitting dog owners, kayak anglers, and paddling enthusiasts with leash products made from upcycled materials since 2008. Yakleash.com, giving garbage a new leash on life.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody. Today we are just going through a tutorial on the options you have in tying off your cable of your Yakleash anchor trolley system to the ring. So we've got some options. We've always shipped our anchor trolley systems with 4 zip ties. Zip ties are great for a number of things. But today, as an option, we are not only including the zip ties in our shipments of anchor trolley systems, we're including aluminum crimps, as well as a couple of heat shrink pieces to go over either the zip tie option or the crimps to make it a little cleaner look. So I want to walk you through that, show you that in a minute. Let's start with the zip tie because that's the easiest. In this example right here, we've got 2 zips, and of course you'd have 2 other zips as you tie the other side to the ring. But the one on the left, you can see better in the photo that we'll insert here, was zipped without heating the cable with a heat gun or anything else. The one on the right is, from this angle you can see it a little better. The cable was heated up just a little bit. You don't want to burn it to where it's smoking, because you definitely don't want to inhale those dangerous whatever's coming in that smoke. Just get it heated up to where it's warm, and you can make a nice tight zip on that heated cable. You can see the difference between the heated cable zip and the non-heated cable zip. The non-heated will hold, it'll be fine. You put a couple of those, but I like this for added security. It's just not going to go anywhere. Additionally, you want to be careful, because after you cut off your zip tie, no matter how close you get it, you're going to be left with a sharp edge, and you got to be careful. If you leave that like that, at some point your leg's going to brush up against it, whether you're paddling or getting out to wade, or you're carrying your kayak, and it's going to hurt. It's probably going to cut your leg. So you either want to file that down with a file or some sandpaper, or in this example on the right, I took a lighter and heated that up. You got to be careful doing that option again, because you don't want to be around that smoke. You want to be in a well ventilated, maybe a fanned area, and be extremely careful. So that's the zip tie, and here's an example that I'll insert a photographic image, and you can see a little better. Both of these are nice heated cable zips, and both edges on the cut have been melted down nice and rounded and smooth. Okay, so that's the zip tie. Then we have the aluminum crimps that are now an option. They're shipping out with all anchor trolley systems. You don't have to use them, but you have 2 of these aluminum crimps, and you have a couple of heat shrink material. Usually it's white, but it may ship in gray or some other color depending on inventory. Sometimes it's going to be a little bigger. Sometimes it's going to be a smaller diameter heat shrink, just depending on what we can get our hands on. But here's an example of using the crimps. Now, I have used in this example a bench crimper or bench swager, whatever you want to call it. So it's a nice professional, well, as professional as I can get it anyway, crimp. It's not going anywhere. Very nice. You can see that. Neither one of these, the bench or the hydraulic hand, are inexpensive. They're costly items, and I'm assuming most people do not have access to these. So I'm going to show you what your options are if you can't get your hands on a crimper. I guess the first thing that most people would take is some pliers, whatever you have on hand. Now hopefully you've got some pliers that are even bigger than these. I wasn't able to do much with these. I couldn't do anything with the regular teeth, but I was able to utilize this portion of these pliers that were not really intended to do anything. But this is the best job that I could do with these pliers and doing multiple different angle squeezes, really putting my weight into it. And not real pretty. It's going to hold, it's going to do the job, but it's just not a pretty job. So whatever you have on hand to give that a whirl. I think a lot of people will attempt to use a hammer, which is fine. You have to just pick an angle and flatten it out like a pancake. Be careful not to break the aluminum, but that's not going anywhere. Not the prettiest job, but that was done with a hammer. Okay, so next we have the heat shrink material, and whether you are putting this over the zip ties or putting it over the aluminum crimps, they're optional as well. They just make for a nice, cleaner look. This job or example was done with a heat gun, and that's really what you're supposed to use with heat shrink material. So you can see just a nice, clean heat shrink around the crimp. If you don't have a heat gun, most people don't, you've got some options. They're not going to be as pretty. This example right here, same crimp, but the heat shrink was attempted with a lighter. And you get right up to the point, you don't want it to burn. Again, you don't want to inhale any of that if it was to actually burn. But you can see it started to turn black right before it was about to burn. But just, you know, it works okay. You just can't quite get it clean and snug like you can with the heat gun. But that was done with a lighter. And then this example was done with a hair dryer. And I know most people have access to a hair dryer. But you know, most hair dryers will not get hot enough. My hair dryer, or my wife's hair dryer, did not get hot enough to really shrink this down. There's a bubble in here, but the ends look like they shrunk enough to where this thing's not going to move off. So you can see again, open flame, not a very good heat shrink. Hair dryer, maybe a little better, different anyway. And then a heat gun just really does what it's supposed to do, does the job, makes it nice and clean. You don't have to, you can leave it exposed. A lot of people do. I would say this is how most of the original anchor trolleys are out there floating around. They're got zip ties and they're not covered with any tape or anything. Last option would be duct tape or electrical tape. And of course today an electrical tape and duct tape really you can get in just about any color. So just give it some tight wraps and be done with it. But you will have the heat shrink material as an option. And tune into our other video that'll walk you through the well nuts typically used with our deck mount anchor trolley option. And we'll walk you through how the well nuts work on that option. So thanks for tuning in.
Yakleash.com, outfitting dog owners, kayak anglers, and paddling enthusiasts with leash products made from upcycled materials since 2008. Yakleash.com, giving garbage a new leash on life.